Welcome, everyone, to this edition of Rossiter's Ringside Report. I'm Mark Chang. I'm joined by the head coach of the Annandale boxing program, Leo Rossiter, and he is on location at the original Mack Lewis Gym in downtown Baltimore. And as you can see here, we wanted to give you a little bit of footage of Baltimore, and they are outside. And Leo, who trained at the gym that has produced countless number of world-class fighters, is with a special guest, Lou Butler, also known as Louis Butler. And so we're going to start diving right into it as soon as Leo gets in the picture. And there we go. Over to you, Leo.
All right. This is Mack Lewis's Gym, Baltimore, Maryland, corner of Broadway and Eager Street. This is where I learned to box. This is where my credentials start as a trainer. And I have with me today brother Louis Butler, who is one of the best friends I've made in boxing. We've had some great times here at the gym and outside the gym. So, Louis, you want to tell us a little bit about your career and Dwight Muhammad Quawi? You fought him twice.
Yeah.
Not many people can live to say that.
Yeah. My name is Louis Butler, known by Brother Louis. Me and Leo, we both trained and did a lot of fighting out of this gym right here. This was Mr. Mack Lewis Gym. It used to be an old dance hall, and by being an old dance hall, the ceiling's real high, and they got like about 5 heavy bags up there, speed bags, the ring, and all, and a lot of good fighters came out here. Larry Milton, Leo, myself, Josh Hall, Alvin Anderson, Vernon Mason, Warren Boardley, Kenny Blackston. A lot of fighters came out here, and this is a gym that I trained in, and my biggest fight was Dwight Muhammad. I fought him twice. I fought him in an 8-round fight down the Baltimore and lost to him by a split decision. A few months later, I wound up fighting him in an Atlantic City tournament where that he beat Matthew Saab Muhammad to win the championship. And this is where everything started, right here for me, amateur and professional. And we did it all right here at the Mr. Mack Lewis Gym. Mr. Mack Lewis would come in here. It used to be a cage. I mean, not a cage, a grate made out of steel right across the door. And steps go straight up. And we did a lot of fighting out here. And man.
Well, Lewis, the gym itself is legendary. Let's talk about you. Specifically, you mentioned the fights against Dwight Braxton, later known as Dwight Quawi. Now, I
Right.
just noticed that he presented a very interesting puzzle because he wasn't very tall, but he had a very long reach. And if I recall correctly, his reach was almost 6 feet tall, but he was about 5'6", 5'7". So not very many people have that build, which is, I would argue, one of the ideal builds for boxing because you don't necessarily want your head sticking up so high, but you want the reach to get there first. How did you deal with that puzzle, if you will?
Well, he was a real he was real tricky. He was he started fighting in matter of fact, I was the very first one in Baltimore that fought him. And with me fighting him, I fought him down the Baltimore. At the time it was the Baltimore City Center. And we fought down there, and he was real tricky. You could throw a punch at him, and he was so tricky. Just a slight move, your punch would go right past him. And but we fought to the point that I lost to him by a split decision. Matter of fact, in both fights, I lost to him by a split decision, right? Everybody else, he was basically stopping them, knocking them out. You know, um, he was a real. Uh, have you ever seen that fight when him and George Foreman fought? If
I
you
did
ever
not
see
see
that
that one
fight,
actually. I saw the Holyfield fights, but I didn't see Foreman.
look at that one. Foreman, he was such a good fighter that he took on Foreman, and of course Foreman was too big for him, but he took him on, and I thought he did a good job with him, but Foreman wound up stopping him, because he was just too little for Foreman.
Yeah.
He was just too small for Foreman.
Well,
But yeah,
well, having gone to the decision that close twice, that really adds so much credibility to your career, I feel. Uh, Leo, do you have anything that you want to talk about the gym or Mr. Butler?
Uh, well, story. Lewis and I were down in the Baltimore Civic Center, outside the Civic Center one day, and he's sitting there telling these girls that we're going to be rich, we're going to have Cadillacs.
yeah, you remember that?
Yeah, I'll never forget that. So we had, and then one day I walked into the gym. I just barely walked in the gym. Mr. Mack looked at me and says, "You know where the DC Armory is?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "You know how to get there?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Let's go." Lewis had gotten a phone call that afternoon for a fight over there in the DC old DC Armory, and so we just turned right around, walked out, got in Mr. Mack's car. I drove, got us over there, and the interesting thing about that night is that was the first time that I ever saw somebody bite somebody in a professional boxing match, and that's when Dale Staley bit some guy that he was beating easily, but got mad at him and bit him, and maybe that's where Tyson got the bites from. Yeah. But yeah, Lewis and I got a lot of a lot of stories like that. Going over to his house with the promoter, Doc Sucks, and eating steak and watching fights. So we got a lot of stories together.
Well, tell us about, throw out a
Might
couple
have
of
to
names.
redo that.
We all know about Vincent Petway and Hakeem Rockman. They came out of the gym.
I
And
can't hear
also,
you.
I believe Josh Hall had trained there. Uh,
Yeah.
Talk about some of the quality that came out of that gym.
Yeah, well, Lewis, talking about Lewis now, Lewis is the one who discovered Hakeem Rockman.
yeah, yeah,
So let him tell you about discovering Hakeem Rockman.
yeah. In the area of West Baltimore and Fair Street, I just came home from Hagerstown. Was doing 5 years, so I knew all about being locked up, and I didn't want the kid to wind up going into the same direction that I want to. So I tried to tighten up his boots and tell him, I said, son, you need to stop doing what you're doing and come on, go to the gym. I'm saying this to him to encourage him to stop what he was doing. So we went in the back and we started shouting. We started body punching from the chest to the belly, right? And I liked the kid. He was watching me. So I said, man, you don't need to be out here doing this. I said, you could make so much money, you would have never looked back. I'm telling him this to stop him from doing what he's doing. So I got with him, and I told him about Mr. Mack Lewis Gym, and his uncle knew about the gym and brought him over here. And when he brought him over here, that's where it started at, right here. I went to Mr. Mack. I talked to Mr. Mack. Mr. Mack said, I'll help him, Lou, and took him off the street, got him a few amateur fights. He fought, won a few amateur fights, and then he turned professional and started banging and knocking them out. The kid was natural.